Well, I've also learned a few lessons in covering the Tour from Phil Liggett. Now, if they gave a yellow jersey for professional play-by-play, Phil would have been on the podium for the last 23 years. Our color analyst Paul Sherwin has as much respect for him as anyone.
Well, it's good fun because I've known Phil for nearly 20 years myself, because he saw my racing career when I rode the Tour de France, and we've worked together for 10 years, and I think the fact that we have a very similar kind of humour, we're both from the same area in the north of England, and it's a rapid humour, it's a quick humour, and I think we get on very well together, and I think that comes across in the commentary. You can see it's a little bit disorganised, the area where we commentate from here. Well, in a stage finish in Blagnac, all the television went down, there was nothing, no pictures, nothing at all. Phil picked up the phone to London, we were going live. I was on the race radio trying to explain to him what was happening, and he commentated on the whole race without actually having any pictures, and it was almost perfect.
Almost perfect, but no one comes any closer. On this day off, Phil and I took a little time to talk ourselves without our headsets.
Well, any event that covers 2,500 miles in 3 weeks, you got to take a break, and Phil and I figured the guys calling the race certainly should be no exception. Phil, you're calling your 23rd Tour de France. There's a particular ring to that. What has this event become? Over 3 decades' time, everyone's talking about the pace this year. Indurain's potential 5th consecutive. What is this event, in your opinion?
Well, what it's become is the fastest and the biggest travelling circus in the world of sport. But to the riders, it's become their most important event of any season. The pressure now for them to succeed is placed on them by sponsors. If they win a stage of this year's Tour de France, they can virtually take the rest of the year off, because you only remember the man who wins a stage of the Tour de France, and none of the other races he may win. But over the years, Adrian, it's become a happy family, yes, but I mean, we've gone up in that family from 1,500 people back in 1973 to nearly 4,000 people now, and it's very commercial now. This race makes a profit, and as you see, the riders push the pace a lot now. In the old days, they used to ride along talking. You never see that anymore.
The other night, we're sitting outside of a restaurant having dinner as the sun goes down. There's this little boy in his pajamas right before his bedtime, racing up and down the avenue on his bicycle. Is that the passion for this sport that we miss in the United States? We don't endear it like people do here?
Of course, absolutely, because the bicycle came before the automobile, and indeed many of the roads now through the Pyrenees were first used by the riders in the Tour de France. And this is a well-chronicled event. The history is well written, and therefore everybody knows the background of this great race. And you know, while that goes on, everybody's going to feel the inner passion for it. And if you're a Frenchman, a Dutchman, or a Belgian, you're going to love this sport.
The question sounds cliche. I'm sure you've heard it before. Greatest thing you've seen in 23 years of the Tour?
Well, the worst thing I've seen was when the Basque separatists blew the car up in San Sebastian. And we had to find a new car next morning, but we shoveled that one back onto the back of a lorry. But the greatest moment that I've ever had in a Tour de France was, of course, Greg LeMond's comeback. But after that, in 1989, when he had the 8-second margin. That particular day, the time trial, I openly admit, I was crying as I was calling the result, because it was such a happy moment and a sad moment. LeMond had pulled the race out of the bag under such great circumstance. Laurent Fignon, who lives in Paris, had lost the Tour by 8 seconds. I felt happy and I felt sorry, and I said to Paul Sherwin at the time, I said, Paul, we should announce our retirements today. We'll never, ever commentate like that again.
Something you haven't seen that you still hope to before you're all done?
Again, no doubt, because I witnessed the first English-speaking winner in Greg LeMond. I then had the pleasure of commentating on Stephen Roach, who was nearer home, the Irishman, in 1987. And what I want now, of course, is a British rider to win the Tour. Goodness me, Tommy Simpson died trying to win this Tour back in 1967. Now we have Chris Boardman, and he left the Tour after only 2 miles this year. But that boy has class, and I think in the next 2 or 3 years, he could be a winner of the Tour de France.
Phil, I think your passion for the sport comes through. It is fun, honestly, listening to you call this race. The unfortunate part about it is that now we got to get back on the course.
Absolutely.
Appreciate your time. All right.